the wonderful Phil, who is going to take us through how on earth we can apply for Council Tax Hardship Scheme. And there's two things that we need, isn't there, Phil, before we even get going on the Council Tax Hardship Scheme? What are those two things?
That's correct. Yes, we need first thing first. You need to have your benefit reference number. So that would be on your benefit notification letter. You would have received one around about March. It would have come about the same time as your council tax bill. It generally begins with a 22, but could be something else basically. But it never begins with a 5 or 6. That's your that will be your council tax reference number. It's generally 8 digits. But
That's
yeah.
fab. So, that's it. So if you are not already receiving council tax support, you cannot apply for the council tax hardship scheme.
No.
So if you find yourself wanting the council tax hardship scheme, are you getting council tax support? If you are, that will be on your letter. You'll have got a letter about it. It'll be on your council tax letter when you look at the breakdown. And you will have had a benefit notification letter with that reference number on. The other thing that we absolutely needed is the bank statements for the 2 months bank statements. Why is that, Phil?
Because we need to know what your expenses are, essentially. So this form, council tax hardship form, will ask you what your expenses are. So you go to look through those bank statements and you can see what you're spending. So what you're spending on gas, electricity, and other expenses like food, things like that. So this will kind of help you to actually fill this form in.
And if we don't have that, it means that Phil's team will struggle to know whether you're entitled to the council tax hardship scheme. Phil's team needs that information. If you do not put that information in your initial form, someone's going to have to go back, read through your application, contact you, maybe not get hold of you, write you a letter. So all of that is going to slow down and compromise your application for council tax hardship support. So please, before you take any further steps, go and get your 2 months bank statements and find that reference number. Now, Phil, once people have got that, what do we do next? I'm going to share screens and then you can take it from the top for me because, yeah, right. So imagine I'm looking at the screen. What should I do?
So if you go to one of your internet browsers, so at the bottom there, so maybe kind of Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge.
Okay, I'm going to go to Google Chrome here and click on it. Click once.
Yep. And so if you type in the browser,
which is at the top here.
Yep, Enfield Council Tax Support Hardship, and then hit enter. And there you go, at the top there, you click on there, and this brings us to the page basically where we're going to make that this application. So just really quickly run through the criteria. So you must be a registered council taxpayer. As Felicity mentioned before, you must be getting council tax support. You will need to make payments towards your council tax. So the council tax support hardship scheme only pays up to 25% of your council tax liability. So you will need to make some kind of payments. You need to be actively making steps to deal with your financial hardship where possible, and also you need to have checked that basically you've your council tax discounts, if you're entitled to any. So if you haven't got a single person discount, you haven't got a carer's discount, things like that, basically, then
Phil, just to say, if you're like me and you cannot make sense of any of these things, I can still apply, can't I? Because you will ensure that those things happen. Yeah. Okay. All right, fab. So what do I do next?
So here you can click on the big red button, basically, that says apply for council tax support hardship payments. And there'll be 3 options here. If you click on continue as a guest, ignore the other 2. And this brings us into the form, basically. So the first question is, do you have a council tax support claim? So you should have yes. And this is where your benefit notification letter will help you, basically. So if you type that number in there.
And Phil, if you can't find that, again, the only problem is that it's going to take your claim even longer to be processed, isn't it? So again, if you can find it, if you absolutely can't, you can just put in some numbers, but
Yes.
it will take a lot longer for your claim to be processed, and
Yep.
it will be a
Absolutely.
lot more back and forth.
Yep.
Right. Um,
So can anyone else help you make payments? So
I'm
I'm
going to say
guessing this
no.
situation, no, because otherwise they'd be helping you, wouldn't they? If you have over £3,000 in savings, then you won't be eligible, basically. So so if you're going to put no there, basically. So here you can basically just explain why you're making your application. Give a good explanation of why, what your situation is. What's got you to this situation where you need to fill this form in? Is it because you've yeah, unemployed? Yep, exactly. You've got some disabilities that basically mean you can't, um, you've got ill health, yeah, all those kind of things. Basically, it's just yeah, just give as much information in that form, in that box as possible, just to explain why you've got to this need to fill this form in, and you need to apply for hardship payments. So the next question is basically, which year are you applying for? We will only make payments for the current financial year, so 24-25. If you have any other debt for previous years, get in contact with the council tax team, and they will come to an affordable arrangement with you. Affordable. So it's yeah, this isn't the
So they'll
form to
make
fill
a
in.
repayment scheme.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
exactly. Do you have any future changes that you want to tell us about? So is any, coming into any money, any benefits, going to kind of kick in, or, you've got a job promised to you in, in 3 months' time or anything like that? That's where you would let us know. Um, as was discussed before, what steps have you taken to address your financial hardship, if you can? Basically, that's
So
the
that would include
situation.
things like seeking
Would you?
work.
Yep, yep, exactly. Reducing bills, gas, electricity, telephone, um, you know, getting rid of subscriptions that you've kind of been paying for previously, all those kind of things. Just tell us exactly what you've been doing to try to help your financial situation. Um,
Fabulous.
so how long do you expect it to last? Is there something going to change basically, or is it, if it's over 12 months, then, that's what we're expecting. It's not going to change for a while. So then click next just there. Here is where you fill in your details. These are your details. So your name, yeah, there you go. And this is where you put your telephone number in. And down here is basically where you would put your property details in. So you
So when
put
it's
your
come up with that, I'm going to click. So I put
click
my
on
postcode
search.
in, and then I have to click search.
Yep. And then
I'm
it
just
it will be a drop down bit there. Yeah. So and then you pick. You should be able to find your property has all the properties within the borough. Um, if you didn't, then if you couldn't find it, then it does give you a box to just type in your address. It might be a case of your property's new or something like that.
going
But
to say no,
yeah,
and then we can put it in
yeah, if you wanted
without
to,
type it
yeah.
in. So I'm going to say yes. So and continue.
This is where we're going to do a check basically on your household details. Do you have a partner living with you? Do you have any children? Do you have any other adults kind of who live with you? Just put exactly as it is, not what's on your benefit claim. Put what's as your situation is now in your household, and then we can do checks against your benefit claim, and we can kind of maybe do some adjustments if need be. Any members of your household have physical or mental health condition, it's expected to last more than 12 months. Just give us an answer there, and then basically you can explain it. There is a box at the end of the form that you'll be able to explain what's happening with that in that situation really there.
So I'm
So
going to
then
click yes, and then I'm going to click next.
next, yeah. So here is basically if you have a mortgage, just explain to us basically there. If you don't have one, click next. If you have any rent payments, here is where you kind of fill in the details. So just put in generally kind of your, the amount you're paying. If you're in any kind of arrears, it's important to basically tell us what your, as accurately as possible, what your frequency of rent. And goes for all the questions that are going to be asked going forward now. Basically, it's we need to know exactly what the kind of the frequency as accurately as possible, what the frequency of those kind of payments are. So click next, yes. So paying for gas, if you click
I'll say
uh,
yes.
yes, and then just tell us exactly. This is where your bank statements come into play, basically, where you need to kind of tell us, look on the bank statements, how much do you pay every month for your gas, basically, and then or is it every week or every 2 weeks? It depends what your kind of the frequency is. But like I said, if you can give it as accurately as possible.
So, and
So
and what you said very helpfully, Phil, as well is, so I'm just going to click some. I'm going to click some amounts at random, and of course, like if you have a key meter, you might say, um, you might put in that you pay weekly, and you only have to estimate. You don't have to get the exact number. So have a look at a couple of months and see what you were putting
yeah,
in over that time.
especially as key meters where you kind of it can be, it's not like a direct debit where you're paying for it. It can be quite random amounts, really, can't it? So give us,
Mm.
yeah, um,
So I'm going to say, no, I'm not paying for water rates, but if I was, I would click yes.
yep.
And it would ask me the frequency. I'm going to say, no, I'm not paying for other fuels, and I'm going to click next.
So disability related expenditure. This is
I'm
quite
going to say yes. And
yes.
let's say I pay £200 a month, roughly. So go on, talk us through this, Phil.
So this is where we kind of need to know as much information about if you have a disability, what you spend that disability income on, basically. So on there you can see it already says for carers or help with your mobility. So it also could be specialist equipment, any kind of medicine that's not covered by free prescriptions or a prescription certificate. You might need incontinence pads or extra cost for laundry, any personal protective equipment, specialist food, some help with your gardening or cleaning due to disability, online shopping delivery fees if you can't go to the shops. You might pay for a physiotherapist, a chiropractor, a masseuse. You might pay for a personal alarm subscription, or maybe pay for specially adapted clothing such as stoma belts. Maybe that's not all of them. That's just some examples, basically, that I'm kind of
Mm,
we've come up with, basically, just to kind of give you some kind of guidance of some of the things that we would include as the expend we take into account as expenses for this, really.
that's really.
Um, so yeah.
I'll say yes, I'm paying for TV license. I'll say I'm paying £10 a month, and I'll say so. Yeah, talk me through travel costs.
The travel costs here, you would put how much you pay for buses or trains. You could put basically how much you're kind of paying for petrol, but we would probably want a better explanation of that if you had a car. And what you can do is there's some questions further on in the form where it says other, and we'll get to that in a second. Basically, that will kind of give you can then because if you're paying for petrol, you should also be paying for car insurance and road tax as well. So you'd be able to give a good explanation of what your kind of car costs are, really. So here, if you're kind of making any loan repayments,
So
you
Phil, just
can.
to check, in that £50, should I be looking at all of that, covering all of the costs of all of those things in that 50? Should I be should that number reflect my car tax, my petrol, and my
Yes,
insurance, all of
you
those
should do
things?
all those
Okay.
things.
All
Yes.
right.
So
And I'm going to say no, I'm not making any court fines, and there will be other outgoings, won't there? Let's click
there.
on yes. What?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because this form can't cover. We don't want to ask so many questions to cover everything. So here we would kind of put. You could put a round number of, like, yeah, say £200, and how often you'd kind of pay for that. But then what we in this box here give an explanation, a breakdown of what those kind of other outgoings are, and also what those car expenses kind of are, basically. So yeah, so if you're paying, yeah, like £100 for food, yeah, your car insurance and road tax, and petrol, kind of gives that kind of explanation there. Is there kind of just any other expenses, stuff like your internet, your mobile phone bills? Give just a good explanation, not and don't just say what they are. You actually have to say
Let
how
me
much
see
you're
how
paying for
much
them.
it is.
Yeah. So they kind of because we'd need to kind of work out actually know what they are, really. So we can
What
take.
kind of other outgoings which should we be looking for there, Phil? So I've got food, car, internet, and phone. What else? What other things might come under that?
Um, I think that's generally the kind of the yeah. I mean, you kind of might have, like, yeah, some of the um general everyday things like cleaning equipment, all those kind of things,
Yeah,
really. Just I mean, whatever you kind of like. I mean, it's kind of quite difficult. Kind of, there's so many different things that people spend their money on, really. But
fab. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm going to put like exceptions, like a haircut or
yes,
gym or something like that. All
absolutely, yeah.
right. So I'm going to say, and we need to put the breakdown of the costs, and then I'm going to click next. I'm going to say I'm going to say yes, just so that we can see what this looks like. I'm saying Felicity has helped complete this form. And I'll say friend, and then I'll say yes, you do give permission, and that means that you guys can get in touch with. If you can't get in touch with me, or I'm
Yeah,
not very well, or anything like that, you'd be happy to then speak
yeah,
to. So I'm going to.
absolutely. Yeah. This box is basically just give you anything else, any other information you think is relevant to your application for council tax hardships. This is where to tell us really. So you just need to. So like I said earlier on, basically, if somebody has some physical and mental health problems expected to last more than 12 months, tell us here. Basically, just exactly, so we might be able to help with a discount. I see that kind of so just tell us all your whole anything you think is relevant basically to applying for council tax hardship, and then that this is where you can tell us that,
Yeah. So this is where we really get to say, listen, if I'm really struggling in my mental health because of what I'm going through, and that's having an impact on my hardship, or vice versa, or anything like that that you think might be helpful. So it's really helpful to give a little bit of context for
absolutely.
everyone. Um, and then I'm just going to click on next. And just, where does this form go, Phil? Who sees this form?
So this basically, once you clicked on next, it will give you the summary, and then once you've hit submit, so have a check through that, and then once you hit submit, then it basically will be sent through to my team directly, basically, and so then we have one of the officers on my team will then look through and make kind of assessment. We'll do kind of checks to see whether you're eligible for a discount or an exemption for council tax, and then also make sure your benefits are correct, and then we'll then look at kind of whether we think you're eligible for hardship payments, and we'll also look at any other previous debt that maybe we can kind of like try and help with to get an affordable arrangement, just to help you kind of with those kind of debts really.
That's
um
so helpful, Phil. Thank you so much.
no worries, thank you.